Some stories don't begin with grand speeches or fancy scenes. They begin on a muddy road, deep in the highlands, where love, kindness, and quiet courage unfold with each step. This is the story of Jack, Tuttienne, and their family. A story not about wealth or fame, but about a journey of the heart, through slippery mountain paths, through pouring rain, and through the lives of children who have so little, yet smile so much. What they carried wasn't just food or gifts. They brought hope. They brought presents. They brought warmth where life is cold. In today's story, you'll witness a man kneel by a cooking fire, not in a mansion, but in a village kitchen, stirring soup for children he just met. You'll see a woman gently wiping mud from a child's cheek. And you'll feel what it means when a family gives not from abundance, but from compassion. So take a breath, settle in, and follow us on this emotional journey, through roads less traveled, into the heart of giving. Let's begin. Jack, the devoted leader. The rain had fallen hard the night before, turning the mountain roads into slick, uneven paths of mud and loose stone. For most, it would have been a sign to turn back. But for Jack, it was the beginning. Long before the sun rose, Jack was already up, loading supplies, checking the weather, helping his team tie down the last bundles of food and gifts. His eyes, usually gentle, now held a clear resolve. This wasn't just a visit. This was a mission. And nothing, rain, mud, or fatigue, would stand in the way. As their vehicle climbed higher into the highlands, the road grew narrower, steeper, more treacherous. Eventually, the truck couldn't go further. Many would have stopped. Jack didn't even hesitate. He slung a backpack over his shoulder, tightened the straps on his boots, and said, "We walk from here." With each step, the mud pulled at their feet. The trail twisted through thick fog and scattered branches. But Jack moved forward steadily, occasionally turning back to help others up, to carry more, or to encourage someone who looked too tired to go on. His shirt soaked through, his hands dirty. His smile never left. By mid-morning, they reached the edge of the village, a cluster of wooden houses with rusted roofs and barefoot children watching silently from behind tree trunks. Jack approached gently. He didn't shout. He didn't demand. He found the village elder and bowed slightly, extending his hand with warmth and respect. Through soft words and a kind demeanor, he asked permission to stay, to help, to serve. What followed was not a show. Jack didn't just drop off goods and pose for a photo. Instead, he rolled up his sleeves, tied on an apron, and walked straight to the outdoor kitchen. There, among boiling pots and uneven stone stoves, he began cooking. He chopped vegetables with steady hands, stirred giant pots of soup, sweated in the smoke and steam. The children stood nearby, watching him curiously. Some smiled. Some still looked unsure. Jack crouched down, handed one boy a spoonful to taste. The boy's eyes lit up. And suddenly, the space was filled with laughter, chatter, the clatter of bowls, and the sound of something rare in this part of the world, joy. But Jack didn't stop there. After the meal was served, he walked around the village, kneeling beside children, asking them their names, their dreams, what they liked to eat. He gently fixed the girl's torn sleeve, gave a boy a piggyback ride across a puddle. He didn't rush. He didn't treat them like a task. He looked into their eyes as if each of them mattered. Because to him, they did. This wasn't charity. This was connection. For Jack, giving wasn't about fulfilling a social duty or looking good. It was about being present, being human. He didn't just give things, he gave time, conversation, kindness, and his full attention. By the end of the day, the children weren't shy anymore. They called out to him, grabbed his hands, sat beside him without fear. And Jack? He looked tired. His clothes were stained, his body aching. But in his eyes there was peace. He had come not just to give, but to feel, to understand, to share. Because that's who Jack was. A man who didn't just believe in kindness, he practiced it with his whole being. Tuttienne, gentle hands, quiet heart. Wherever Jack went, Tuttienne was just a step behind, not out of duty, but out of love. On the steep, muddy trails to the village, she moved with quiet strength, steady and calm. The path was rough, slick with rain, the climb tiring even for the strongest. But Tuttienne never complained. She carried her own share of supplies, helped others cross slippery patches, and smiled softly whenever someone needed reassurance. Her presence alone made people feel safe. As they entered the remote village, her eyes scanned the familiar landscape: tiny wooden homes, makeshift roofs, and barefoot children. This wasn't her first time helping in places like this. And somehow, she remembered every village they had visited before: the names, the faces, the stories. To her, these weren't just stops on a map. They were people, lives, souls. While Jack took charge of the outdoor kitchen, Tuttienne quietly began organizing supplies: rice bags, oil, noodles, and small gifts for the children. She worked efficiently, moving with a sense of grace and care that came not from being told what to do, but from deeply understanding what was needed. When the pots were boiling and the smell of broth filled the air, Tuttienne was already by Jack's side, chopping vegetables, tasting the soup, adjusting the fire with gentle hands. Every motion was deliberate, filled with quiet focus. And when the children gathered nearby, peeking curiously at the meal being prepared, it was Tuttienne who knelt down and smiled first. She tied a little girl's scarf, gently brushed dirt off a boy's knee, and handed out small snacks she had tucked away just for this moment. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Her kindness was felt in the way she touched a child's cheek, or how she crouched down to look them in the eyes when they spoke. It was in the way she listened, to every villager who came to talk, to every mother who shyly thanked her, to every child who just wanted someone to notice them. She was, in every sense, the big sister of the moment, watching over, caring deeply, never asking for anything in return. Even as the cooking finished and the food was served, Tuttienne was there, making sure each child had enough rice, helping the elderly find a seat, gently wiping a toddler's messy mouth. And when the food ran out, she was the one comforting the few who came late, promising they'd be back with more. To the villagers, Tuttienne wasn't just a guest. She was one of them, present, compassionate, deeply respectful. She didn't try to impress. She tried to understand. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the work was done, a local woman whispered, "She's so kind, so soft, but so strong." And it was true. Tuttienne's kindness didn't shout. It didn't ask to be seen, but it moved through every action, every glance, every smile. She brought not just food or supplies, but dignity, comfort, a moment of stillness in lives so often shaken by hardship. She was not the loudest, not the leader, but she was the heartbeat of the day, the one who made everything feel human. And that, perhaps, was her quiet superpower. Jack's mother. A gentle heart that gives quietly. She was the oldest among them, yet she never asked for help. Jack's mother, with her silver-streaked hair tied back in a calm, steady presence, walked behind the group, not because she couldn't keep up, but because she liked watching over them. Her eyes missed nothing, and her heart carried more than anyone could see. She had insisted on joining this trip, despite her age and the challenges of the mountainous terrain. "This is something we do as a family," she had said with quiet resolve, and she meant it. From the moment they stepped into the village, the children noticed her, maybe because she looked like the grandmother they never had close by. Her smile was warm, unhurried. She reached out her hands gently, brushing a child's shoulder, straightening a girl's hat. There was no barrier, no gap between her and the people. She didn't speak loudly, But every word she said landed softly in the heart. She spent the morning preparing vegetables, seasoning the broth, and cleaning utensils, without fuss, without needing attention. Every gesture spoke of years of raising her own children, of meals cooked with patience, of love expressed through action, not words. The villagers respected her instantly. Some of the older women came to sit beside her, exchanging small stories, sharing quiet laughter. Jack's mother listened more than she spoke. Her eyes held understanding. She had seen hunger before, lived through hard times herself. Maybe that's why she felt so connected to these people, not out of pity, but through shared memory, silent empathy. When it came time to serve the food, she took her place without being told. She gently scooped portions for the elderly first, offering a kind word or a soft pat on the hand. Then she turned to the children, smiling as she handed each bowl with a nod of encouragement. Later, when a small child dropped his rice, she knelt down, helped him clean up, and gave him her own portion without hesitation. She never sought the spotlight, never tried to lead. But in her presence there was comfort, stability, a reminder that kindness doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. As the sun began to set and the air turned cool, she sat on a wooden stool, watching the children play. She wiped her hands on her apron and smiled, not with pride, but with quiet fulfillment. She wasn't there because of reputation or recognition. She was there because that's what mothers do. They follow, they support, they give. Jack's mother didn't come to change the world. She came to hold it gently, if only for a day. A family that gives together. By midday, the village was alive with warmth, not just from the fire under the pots, but from something deeper, the presence of a family who had come not to be thanked, but to serve. Jack, Tuttienne, Jack's mother, each had given so much of themselves already. But they were not alone. Every member of the family, young and old, found their place in this shared mission. It was not an organized charity or a media event. There were no reporters, no sponsors, no grand speeches. Just a group of people moving in harmony, each giving what they could, quietly, kindly. One of Jack's younger cousins, barely out of college, took the task of organizing games for the children. He brought out a worn soccer ball, and before long, laughter echoed across the field. The children chased after him, their bare feet kicking up dust, their faces glowing with joy. He didn't speak the local dialect, but laughter needed no translation. Another aunt, known in the family for her skill in sewing, had spent weeks before the trip stitching small scarves and mittens. Now she gently wrapped them around tiny necks and hands, her eyes misting as she whispered, "Keep warm, little one." Anise passed out storybooks and crayons, sitting with a group of children under a tree, drawing simple animals and teaching them to count in English and Vietnamese. Everyone gave what they had, not in wealth, but in heart. No one stood idle. Even the teens, usually glued to their phones back home, were now helping organize supplies, carrying water buckets, or helping elders to their seats. There was no complaining, no fussing about the long journey or lack of comfort. If anything, they smiled more here than they did in the city. They were connected, to each other, to the villagers, to something bigger than themselves. During the meal, the family moved together like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Some served rice. Others poured soup. Jack's father, usually reserved, helped carry trays from the fire to the tables, sweating under the midday sun but waving off any offer to take his place. "The kids are eating. That's what matters," he said, his voice gruff but eyes gentle. The villagers noticed. One elderly man leaned over and said quietly, "You can feel it. They're not just giving food. They're giving care." And that was the truth. Each bowl served was a message: you matter. You are not forgotten. After the food was eaten and the children's bellies full, the family didn't pack up and leave. Instead, they stayed, sat among the villagers, listened to their stories, played more games, helped repair a broken door. planted a few trees around the school. They treated the village not as a mission, but as a neighbor. Later that evening, as the sky turned soft with sunset, the family gathered together under a large tree at the edge of the village. They didn't talk about what they had accomplished. They talked about what they had received: perspective, humility, and the reminder that love, in its purest form, is action. Tuttienne leaned her head on Jack's shoulder, watching the children still chasing each other with makeshift paper kites. "It's strange," she whispered. "We came here thinking we were giving, but I think we're the ones being filled." Jack nodded. "It's not about how much you bring. It's about how much you leave behind in someone's heart." And truly, they had left more than food, clothes, or supplies. They had left laughter. They had left dignity. They had left the rare and precious feeling of being seen. That night, before leaving, Jack's family stood together with the villagers one last time. Hands were shaken. Tears were wiped. Hugs exchanged. And for a moment, there were no strangers, only one large family, bound not by blood, but by compassion. Back on the muddy path, flashlights in hand, they made their way down the mountain slowly, exhausted but lighter somehow. No one asked when they'd do this again. No one needed to. They all knew they would. Because when a family chooses to love together, serve together, and sacrifice together, they don't just change the lives of others. They change their own. And in that transformation, something holy is born. Final reflection: the deeper meaning behind the journey. What makes a moment unforgettable? It isn't always the grand gestures or the amount of money spent. Sometimes it's simply sitting down beside someone, offering your time, your care, and your presence. Jack and his family didn't come to that village to prove anything. They didn't arrive with cameras, announcements, or pride. They came quietly, with open hands and full hearts. Not because they were rich, but because they remembered what it meant to have little. Each of them had known struggle, had once faced days where warmth and kindness felt far away. That's what made their compassion so honest, so human. They weren't offering charity. They were offering solidarity. They didn't give as benefactors, they shared as friends. That's what set this journey apart. The children may not remember the brands of shoes or the size of the rice bags, but they will remember Jack kneeling down to tie a shoelace, Tuttienne's warm hand on their shoulder, the way Jack's mother looked them in the eye and smiled. These are the things that stay in a child's heart long after the gifts are gone. Because kindness, when given with humility, plants something eternal. And that is the true beauty of this story. Thank you for joining us in this journey. We hope today's story touched your heart, reminded you of the quiet power of giving, and inspired you to see that love doesn't have to be loud to be life-changing. If this story moved you, we invite you to subscribe, share it with someone you care about, and stay with us for more stories that shine a light on simple, powerful acts of love. Until next time, take care of yourself, and take care of others. From our hearts to yours, thank you for listening. You've been watching the story of Jack, Tuttienne, and a family whose kindness speaks without words. We'll see you in the next story.